Good evening. I'm Elizabeth Alexander, and I want to welcome you to Shelter in Poems, a special reading organized by the Academy of American Poets. In this uncertain and challenging time, more and more people are turning to poetry for comfort and fortitude. In poems, we find lifelines, words of wisdom and insight, glimmers of hope. Tonight, we're joined by an incredible lineup of actors, musicians, philanthropists, and leaders who have donated their time to share a poem from the Shelter in Poems initiative on Poets.org, which invites readers to share poems that bring solace and meaning. I want to thank you all for being a part of what I know will be a memorable offering of poems. And now, I'm pleased to introduce Jennifer Benka, the President and Executive Director of the Academy of American Poets, to say a few words.
Thank you, Elizabeth. I'm so grateful for your poems and for all that you do on behalf of the arts and humanities in our country. If poetry did not exist on any given day in the world, it would be invented then, the poet Muriel Rukeyser once said, because there would be an intolerable hunger. Poetry feeds our spirit, and the Academy of American Poets is pleased to be our nation's leading champion of poets and poetry. We provide funds to poets through fellowships and awards in honor of their artistic merit and to fuel their readings, workshops, and community programs that touch the lives of thousands of people where they live. We also serve more than 30 million readers every year through series like Poem a Day and a special series for educators and parents called Teach This Poem. You can learn more about everything we do on our website, Poets.org. You know, April's National Poetry Month, and typically, during this time of year, we are very busy raising funds to support our programs and publications. We're obviously not able to do that this year. And so instead, throughout tonight's program, we will invite you, if you can, to make a financial contribution to support our efforts to share poetry with more people in the weeks and months ahead. Thanks so much for joining with us this evening to take shelter in poems. Elizabeth, I'd like to turn things back to you to kick off this evening's readings. Thanks again.
The poem I'm going to read was written in 1984 by the late poet Christopher Gilbert. It's called Time with Stevie Wonder in It. I chose it because that's one of my favorite titles of all time, and I chose it because he takes you on a journey. You're not sure where the music is coming into the poem, but what you see when the music comes into the poem is that it transforms the moment, it transforms time and space, and in the way that great music can carry us through, take us elsewhere, and remind us of the extraordinary things that are within the human spirit, I think that that's one thing I take from this beautiful, beautiful poem. Time with Stevie Wonder in It by Christopher Gilbert. Winter, the empty air outside, cold, shaking its rigid tongue, announcing itself like something stone spit out, which is still a story and a voice to be embraced. Januaried movements, but I hear a tune carries me home to Lansing. Always waiting for signs of thaw, dark nomads getting covered by snow. Our parents would group in the long night, tune frequencies to the black stations blasting out of Memphis, Nashville, still playing what we played down south. Ray Charles, Charles Brown, Ruth Brown, Muddy, and Wolf. The tribal families driven north to neighborhoods stacked like boxes. To work the auto plants was progress. To pour steel would buy a car. To drive hope further on down the road. How could you touch, hear, or be alive? How could anybody wearing our habits, quiet Protestant heads aimed up to some future? This was our rule following. Buy at JCPenney's and Woolworth's. Work at Diamond, Rio, Oldsmobile, Fisher Body. On Fridays, drink, dance, and try to forget the perverse comfort of huddling in what was done to survive, the buffering, the forgetting. How could we not turn the head, pretend not to see? This is what we saw. Hope screwed to steel flesh. This was Machine City and the wind through it. Neutral to an extent, private and above all, perfectly European language in which we could not touch, hear, or be alive. How could anybody be singing Fingertips? Little Stevie Wonder on My Crystal, 1963. Blind boy comes to go to school, the airwaves politely segregated. If this were just a poem, there would be a timelessness. The punch clock Midwest would go on ticking, the intervals between ticks metaphor for the gap in our lives, and in that language which would not carry itself beyond indifferent consequences. The beauty of the word, though, is the difference between language and the telling made through use. Dance Motown on his lip, he lays these radio tracks across the synapse of snow. The crystals show a future happening with you in it. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Maulik Pancholy. I'm an actor and I'm an author. It is some difficult and strange times. So many of us are forced to be alone right now, and it seems our primary form of communication nowadays is seeing each other on these flat screens. If you're like me, you've probably done like 100 Zoom calls this week. It can be hard to read facial expressions, to respond to body language, to tell if someone is actually frozen or if they have just decided to stop talking to you. With unreliable visuals, words, the way we communicate through language becomes heightened. I think this is something that poets have always understood, especially about the written word. And maybe that's just one reason that poetry can feel so comforting right now. The playfulness of language, the myriad interpretations, how we can fall into a poem and be surrounded by a whole new emotional life. I'm so grateful to the Academy of American Poets for the work they are doing right now to celebrate and to bring poetry to all of us. And I'm so grateful to all of you who are able to support the Academy of American Poets tonight. And I'm honored to read this beautiful poem, a poem that seems perfect for right now. When Giving is All We Have, by Alberto Rios. One river gives its journey to the next. We give because someone gave to us. We give because nobody gave to us. We give because giving has changed us. We give because giving could have changed us. We have been better for it. We have been wounded by it. Giving has many faces. It is loud and quiet, big though small, diamond in wood nails. Its story is old, the plot worn and the pages too, but we read this book anyway, over and again. Giving is first and every time, hand to hand, mine to yours, yours to mine. You gave me blue, and I gave you yellow. Together, we are simple green. You gave me what you did not have, and I gave you what I had to give. Together, we made something greater from the difference. Thank you.
Hello, I am Naomi Shihab Nye, thanking the Academy of American Poets for inviting us to make Shelter in Poems. The Academy always finds some way to make every season, even a strange, unexpected season, a little more humane, and we are helped by all of the connections you give us, Academy, the beautiful poems, the friends we haven't made yet, the new voices, the suggestions. Thank you. And best wishes to all of you friends of poetry who watch. I'd like to share a poem by one of my dearest and oldest friends in poetry, Harriet Mullen, who has lived in Los Angeles for many, many years, but long, long ago, she and I were in tall windowed classrooms together on Galveston Island in Texas working, and I have loved all of her books and her spirit forever. So this poem by Harriet is called Still Waiting, and it is for Allison Sarr. Please approach with care these figures in black. Regard with care the weight they bear, the scars that mark their hearts. Do you think you can handle these bodies of graphite and coal dust? This color might rub off. A drop of this red liquid could stain your skin. This black powder could blow you sky high. No ordinary pigments blacken our blues. Would you mop the floor with this bucket of blood? Would you rinse your soiled laundry in this basin of tears? Would you suckle hot milk from this cracked vessel? Would you be baptized in this fountain of funky sweat? Please approach with care, these bodies still waiting to be touched. We invite you to come closer. We permit you to touch and be touched. We hope you will engage with care. That's by Harriet Mullen. It's called Still Waiting. It's on the Poets.org site. And it moves me very much because we need to be thinking in this shelter in time about all the people we will never get to know now, who we didn't have a chance to touch or hug or say goodbye to. We need to grieve for them and honor them together.
Good evening. A poem by James Baldwin, untitled. Lord, when you send the rain, think about it, please, a little. Do not get carried away by the sound of falling water, the marvelous light on the falling water. I am beneath that water. It falls with great force, and the light blinds me to the light. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Allison Pill, and I'm honored to join the Academy of American Poets in their Shelter in Poems event. I think language is difficult. I think finding the right words is almost impossible. It usually comes up short. But I think poetry, good poetry, is the closest that language can come to distilling a moment of experience into language. And in these moments of loneliness and chaos and paranoia and sheltering at home and trying to figure out what's next, I think leaning on poetry can be an amazing way to share in an experience and to feel seen and heard. And with that, I'd like to share a poem called Let Evening Come by Jane Kenyon. Let the light of late afternoon shine through chinks in the barn, moving up the bales as the sun moves down. Let the cricket take up chafing as a woman takes up her needles and her yarn. Let evening come. Let dew collect on the hoe abandoned in long grass. Let the stars appear and the moon disclose her silver horn. Let the fox go back to its sandy den. Let the wind die down. Let the shed go black inside. Let evening come. To the bottle in the ditch, to the scoop in the oats, to air in the lung, let evening come. Let it come as it will, and don't be afraid. God does not leave us comfortless. So let evening come. I hope you find your shelter in poems today. I know I did. Thank you.
Hi, poet Marilyn Chin here, sheltering in place in the borderlands of San Diego, California. First, I want to thank our first responders, our healthcare workers, our essential workers who are helping us through this pandemic crisis. We thank you from the bottom of our hearts. So what have I been doing? This week, I've been listening to classic soft rock and slow R&B, weepy love songs, and female vocalists, of course. And I've been reading love poems. I guess my heart needs comforting. Today, I want to read this love poem by Gwendolyn Brooks, and it's about a couple who have lived a simple life together for many, many years, and they've endured through thick and thin, and it's a shout out to all those long, blissful relationships out there. The poem is called The Bean Eaters by Gwendolyn Brooks. The Bean Eaters by Gwendolyn Brooks. They eat beans mostly, this old yellow pair. Dinner is a casual affair. Plain chipware on a plain and creaky wood. Tin flatware. Two who are mostly good. Two who have lived their day. But keep on putting on their clothes and putting things away. And remembering with twinklings and twinges as they lean over the beans in their rented back room that is full of beads and receipts and dolls and cloths, tobacco crumbs, vases, and fringes. Thank you everyone, and please stay safe.
Hello, I'm Kevin Kwan, the author of Crazy Rich Asians. Very few people know that my first love is poetry, and my passion for writing began with poems. In fact, the idea for my first novel, Crazy Rich Asians, was inspired by a poem I wrote back in college called Singapore Bible Study. Poetry is what I seek out when I want to go back to the purity of the idea, to the joy of experimentation. Today, I'll be reading The Niagara River by K. Ryan. As though the river were a floor, we position our table and chairs upon it, eat, and have conversation. As it moves along, we notice, as calmly as though dining room paintings were being replaced, the changing scenes along the shore. We do know this is the Niagara River, but it is hard to remember what that means. Thank you.
I'm Alberto Rios. This is a poem by Roque Dalton, Como tú. Yo, como tú, amo el amor, la vida, el dulce encanto de las cosas, el paisaje celeste de los días de enero. También mi sangre bulle y río por los ojos que han conocido el brote de las lágrimas. Creo que el mundo es bello, que la poesía es como el pan de todos, y que mis venas no terminan en mí, sino en la sangre unánime de los que luchan por la vida, el amor, las cosas, el paisaje y el pan. La poesía de todos. Like you, I love love, life, the sweet smell of things, the sky blue landscape of January days. And my blood boils up, and I laugh through eyes that have known the buds of tears. I believe the world is beautiful, and that poetry, like bread, is for everyone. And that my veins don't end in me, but in the unanimous blood of those who struggle for life, love, little things, landscape and bread, the poetry of everyone.
On Falling, Blue Spruce by Joanna Klink. Dusk fell every night. Things fall. Why should I have been surprised? Before it was possible to imagine my life without it, the winds arrived, shattering air and pulling the tree so far back, its roots, 90 years, ripped and sprung. I think as it fell, it became unknowable. Every day of my life now I cannot understand. The force of dual winds lifting 90 years of stillness as if it were nothing, as if it hadn't held every crow and fog emptying night from its branches. The needles fell. The pine cones dropped every hour on my porch, a constant irritation. It is enough that we crave objects, that we are always looking for a way out of pain. What is beyond task and future sits right before us, endlessly worthy. I have planted a linden with its delicate, clean angles on a plot 1/10 the size. Some change is too great. Somewhere there is a field, white and quiet, where a tree like this one stands, made entirely of hovering. Nothing will hold me up like that again. This may seem like an unlikely choice for this series of poems that are to provide balm or solace in these times. And yet I find that it does, because the situation that Joanna Klink describes is analogous to the one that we are in now. Instead of a blue spruce, we have a pandemic. We have had our future suddenly presented to us, entirely changed, entirely unimaginable, and nothing will be the same again. Now, what she offers as a solace is there is this tree that had been there before her that is unceremoniously ripped up and extinguished, and yet somewhere in our imagination, in our hearts, is a sense of a picture of this tree, or the essence of that tree hovering. I think what she's trying to say to us is that our memories, our sense of where we are in a moment and how we felt in that moment can never be taken away from us. They exist inside of us, maybe existing entirely of hovering, and yet they are there in that field, that white and quiet field. That to me is the solace that poetry offers, and that this poem offers to me.
Hello, I'm Patrick Gaspard. I'm the president of the Open Society Foundations, which is the largest contributor to human rights the world over. I've been invited today to shelter in poetry with you all. I've been a diplomat, I've been in politics, I've been an organizer in unions. And throughout all of that, poetry is a place that I return, not for solace or simple answers, but instead to lift up the most provocative questions in my soul about the world. The poet that I have the honor of sharing with you today is Lucille Clifton. Lucille Clifton wrote these little gems that are almost like prayers. She would say often that she wrote small poems because she was far too busy with the living, with the washing of the dishes, with the cooking, with the raising of the children, with being a woman, with being a wife. I think many of us can relate to that kind of multiplicity in this challenging moment. Blessing the Boats by Lucille Clifton at St. Mary's. May the tide that is entering even now the lip of our understanding carry you out beyond the face of fear. May you kiss the wind, then turn from it, certain that it will love your back. May your eyes open to water, water waving forever. And may you, in your innocence, sail through this to that. So let's all sail from this to that and come out on the other side of this more whole, with a greater sense of community, and let's all remember to contribute to the Academy of American Poets. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Julia Bullock. I'm currently in Munich, Germany, and I'm just so happy to be able to contribute to this event and also to have been given the invitation to read poetry aloud on the last day of National Poetry Month. It's so cool. Thank you. Thank you. I'm a classical singer, and poetry and music are a big part of my life, daily life. So when I was asked to read this very early poem by Langston Hughes aloud, I decided to go into my library and pull out his autobiography, The Big Sea. I read this several years ago, but I wanted to remind myself about the circumstances around him writing this particular poem. And I just think they're so meaningful, so I wanted to share them with you. He was on a trip to visit his father in Mexico, and he did not have a good relationship with his dad, so thoughts around lineage and how the past flows into the present, I imagine, were very much on his mind. But he was taking a train north to south, and this was just outside of St. Louis, Missouri. And these are the words that he used to describe the moments just before writing this poem. Now, it was just sunset, and we crossed the Mississippi slowly over a long bridge. I looked out the window of the Pullman at the great muddy river flowing down toward the heart of the South. And I began to think what that river, the old Mississippi, had meant to Negroes in the past. How to be sold down the river was the worst fate that could overtake a slave in times of bondage. Then I remembered reading how Abraham Lincoln had made a trip down the Mississippi on a raft to New Orleans, and how he had seen slavery at its worst. Then I began to think about other rivers in our past, the Congo and the Niger and the Nile in Africa. And the thought came to me, I've known rivers. And I put it down on the back of an envelope I had in my pocket. And within the space of 10 or 15 minutes, as the train gathered speed in the dusk, I had written this poem, which I called The Negro Speaks of Rivers. I've known rivers. I've known rivers ancient as the world, and older than the flow of human blood in human veins. My soul has grown deep like the rivers. I bathed in the Euphrates when dawns were young. I built my hut near the Congo, and it lulled me to sleep. I looked upon the Nile and raised the pyramids above it. I heard the singing of the Mississippi when Abe Lincoln went down to New Orleans, and I've seen its muddy bosom turn all golden in the sunset. I've known rivers, ancient, dusky rivers. My soul has grown deep like the rivers. After this poem, he wrote, generally the first 2 or 3 lines come to me from something I'm thinking about, or looking at, or doing. And the rest of the poem, if there is to be a poem, flows from those first few lines, usually right away. If there is a chance to put the poem down, then I write it down. If not, I try to remember it until I can get a pencil and paper. For poems are like rainbows. They escape you quickly. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. I'm Richard Blanco. It's my pleasure to be with you here virtually this evening for Shelter in Poems. Indeed, it is a time to turn to poetry, as we always do when we need to find solace and pull light out of the darkness. In addition to my service as inaugural poet for President Obama, I currently serve as the Education Ambassador for the Academy of American Poets. In that role, a role that I deeply cherish, I encourage teachers to share poetry with their students through the plethora of incredible and free resources that the Academy offers. Resources like our innovative Teach This Poem series and our interactive Dear Poet project. Now that so many are teaching students online, we hope you'll visit Poets.org and take advantage of all our offerings. I also hope that you can make a donation tonight to help us share even more educational resources with teachers and parents in the months ahead. It's my delight and honor now to kick off the second half of our Shelter in Poems reading with Perhaps the World Ends Here by Joy Harjo. Now that my husband and I, like so many of us, have been cooking at home every day, I am reminded of just how grounding and special that proverbial kitchen table is, which is what this poem honors and celebrates. Perhaps the world ends here. The world begins at a kitchen table. No matter what, we must eat to live. The gifts of earth are brought and prepared, set on the table. So it has been since creation, and it will go on. We chase chickens or dogs away from it. Babies teethe at the corners. They scrape their knees under it. It is here that children are given instructions on what it means to be human. We make men at it. We make women. At this table, we gossip, recall enemies and the ghosts of lovers. Our dreams drink coffee with us as they pull their arms around our children. They laugh with us at our poor falling down selves. And as we put ourselves back together once again at the table. This table has been a house in the rain, an umbrella in the sun. Wars have begun and ended at this table. It is a place to hide in the shadow of terror, a place to celebrate the terrible victory. We have given birth on this table and have prepared our parents for burial here. At this table we sing with joy, with sorrow. We pray of suffering and remorse. We give thanks. Perhaps the world will end at the kitchen table while we are laughing and crying, eating of the last sweet bite.
Sundays, too, my father got up early and put his clothes on in the blue-black cold. Then, with cracked hands that ached from labor and the weekday weather made, banked fires blaze. No one ever thanked him. I'd wake and hear the cold splintering, breaking. When the rooms were warm, he'd call, and slowly I would rise and dress, fearing the chronic angers of that house, speaking indifferently to him, who had driven out the cold and polished my good shoes as well. What did I know? What did I know of love's austere and lonely offices?
Hello, I'm Joy Harjo. I'm going to read a Galway Canal poem, After Making Love We Hear Footsteps. I love this poem, and I love Galway Canal's poetry ever since I heard him the first time when I was a University of New Mexico student and heard him read and recite his poetry. And I realized then that he was a poet he's a tactile poet. He goes within words and feels them out, and he's so sensual. There's a great sensuality in his poetry of an awareness of that which is born of the earth and made of the earth and constructed of the earth. And I love this poem, especially during this time of interior domestic space, where it demands an interior focus, something that we poets are very familiar with. It's our kind of space. So anyway, I'm going to read this poem. After making love, we hear footsteps, Galway Canal. For I can snore like a bullhorn, or play loud music, or sit up talking with any reasonably sober Irishman, and Fergus will only sink deeper into his dreamless sleep, which goes by all in one flash. But let there be that heavy breathing, or a stifled come cry, anywhere in the house, and he will wrench himself awake and make for it on the run. And now we lie together, after making love, quiet, touching along the length of our bodies. Familiar touch of the long married, and he appears. In his baseball pajamas, it happens. The neck opening so small, he has to screw them on, and flops down between us and hugs us and snuggles himself to sleep, his face gleaming with the satisfaction at being this very child. In the half-darkness, we look at each other and smile and touch arms across this little startlingly muscled body. This one whom habit of memory propels to the ground of his making. Sleeper only the mortal sounds can sing awake. This blessing love gives again into our arms. I love that. This one whom habit of memory propels to the ground of making. Sleeper only the mortal sounds can sing awake. This blessing love gives again into our arms. Thank you, Canal, and everybody. Stay safe.
Hi everyone, Sam Bean from Iron and Wine. Hope this finds you safe and healthy. I wanted to take a minute to read a poem to you today called Everyone Sang by Siegfried Sassoon. Everyone suddenly burst out singing, and I was filled with such delight as prisoned birds must find in freedom, winging wildly across the white orchards and dark green fields, on and out of sight. Everyone's voice was suddenly lifted and beauty came like the setting sun. My heart was shaken with tears and horror drifted away. Oh, but everyone was a bird and the song was wordless. The singing will never be done. That's Everyone Sang by Siegfried Sassoon. Poetry has a musicality all of its own, and we have a very unique bond with it, a spiritual connection. On days like these when there's so much fear and anxiety, so much isolation, those spiritual connections can be very powerful and very important. Poetry can inspire, and it can provoke, and it can comfort. I just want to say thanks to the Academy of American Poets for what they do, all the work they put into their educational programs. Hopefully you guys will all give generously, because I feel like what they do is very important, in my opinion. Hope this finds you well. Stay safe, everyone. It's nice to see you. Bye.
Hi everyone, this is Amber Tamblyn wishing you a happy National Poetry Month. I'm here tonight to celebrate the incredible work of the Academy of American Poets, one of the most important organizations we have here in the United States, not only because they provide us with amazing things like a poem a day, if you are a fan of that. That is Poets.org, the Academy of American Poets. They supply us with incredible, brilliant, potent, powerful new poems all the time, and also they continue the education of teaching about poetry, the importance of it, why it matters right now. So please, if you can, go to Poets.org. Always support. The Academy of American Poets is one of our most important institutions, and I personally love them very, very much. I'm going to read a poem here called Octopus Empire by Marilyn Nelson. What if the submarine is praying for a way it can poison the air, in which some of them have leaped for a few seconds, felt its suffocating, rejected buoyancy? Something floats above their known world, leading a wake of uncountable death. What if they organized into a rebellion? Now scientists have found a group of octopuses who seem to have a sense of community, who live in dwellings made of gathered pebbles and shells, who cooperate, who defend an apparent border. Perhaps they'll have a plan for the planet in a millennium or two after we're gone.
Hello, folks. This is Juan Felipe Herrera, former poet laureate of the United States. It's a great pleasure to read your poem by Francisco X. Alarcón, a great gay Chicano Latinx pioneer in writing and organizing and community activism and relationships with Buenos Aires, Argentina, Mexico City, Latin America, Ireland, and on in our name, representing us. And what I'm going to read from him is a poem called In Xochitl Inquicatl, flower and song, the term in Nahuatl, in the language of the Mexica, the first Mexicans on this hemisphere, regarding the voice of the poet. In Xochitl Inquicatl is the poem, is poetry. And the singer, Inquicatl, flower and song, the singer, the Quicat, is the poet. And it's about offering something to our community. It's about becoming closer with our community at home, and a larger home, our community, and a larger home, our planet, and a larger home, the universe itself. Every tree, a brother. Every hill, a pyramid, a holy spot. Every valley, a poem. In Xochitl, Inquicatl, flower and song. Every cloud, a prayer. Every rain, drop, a miracle. Every body, a seashore. A memory at once lost and found. We are all together, fireflies in the night, dreaming up the cosmos. Cada árbol un hermano, cada monte una pirámide, un oratorio, cada valle un poema. In Xochitl, Inquicatl, flor y canto, cada nube una plegaria, cada gota de lluvia un milagro, cada cuerpo una orilla al mar, un olvido encontrado. Todos juntos, all together, luciérnagas, fireflies de la noche, in the night, soñando, dreaming up el cosmos, the cosmos. Let us do that. Let us come together. Let us be united. Let us heal at this time with the poetry of Francisco X. Alarcón and the poetry of all our poets and dreamers and undocumented, and the poetry of all of us who are in pain, our brothers and sisters and fathers and mothers and grandmothers who may be sick, who may be in the hospital, those we have lost, and those fighting it out, protecting themselves and ourselves at home and on the streets. Muchas gracias. Thank you very much. Thank you so much.
Hi, everybody. My name is Amanda Gorman, and I am the inaugural Youth Poet Laureate of the United States. I'm going to read a poem entitled Praise Song for the Day by Elizabeth Alexander. It was recited at Obama's inauguration, and while that was several years ago, I think the message of hope and perseverance is incredibly relevant for the crisis we're in today. Each day, we go about our business, walking past each other, catching each other's eyes or not, about to speak or speaking. All about us is noise. All about us is noise and bramble, thorn and din, each one of our ancestors on our tongues. Someone is stitching up a hem, darning a hole in a uniform, patching a tire, repairing the things in need of repair. Someone is trying to make music somewhere with a pair of wooden spoons on an oil drum, with cello, boom box, harmonica, voice. A woman and her son wait for the bus. A farmer considers the changing sky. A teacher says, "Take out your pencils, begin." We encounter each other in words, words spiny or smooth, whispered or declaimed, words to consider, reconsider. We cross dirt roads and highways that mark the will of someone and then others who said, "I need to see what's on the other side. I know there's something better down the road." We need to find a place where we are safe. We walk into that which we cannot yet see. Say it plain, that many have died for this day. Sing the names of the dead who brought us here, who laid the train tracks, raised the bridges, picked the cotton and the lettuce, built brick by brick the glittering edifices they would then keep clean and work inside of. Praise song for struggle, praise song for the day, praise song for every hand-lettered sign, the figuring it out at kitchen tables. Some live by love thy neighbor as thyself. Others by first do no harm or take no more than you need. What if the mightiest word is love? Love beyond marital, filial, national. Love that casts a widening pool of light. Love with no need to preempt grievance. In today's sharp sparkle, this winter air, anything can be made, any sentence begun. On the brink, on the brim, on the cusp, praise song for walking forward in that light.
Hi, everyone. My name is Edward Hirsch. Glad to be with you, virtually speaking. Thanks to the Academy of American Poets for putting this together. I've been thinking about poetry and how it can work in this time and help us. Poetry, by its very nature, sets up a kind of communication between strangers. It connects people who are otherwise disconnected. It's meant as a form of communication between people who are not physically present to each other. It works from one isolation to another. That's why the Holocaust poet Paul Celan called it a message in a bottle. I think it speaks from one solitude to another, and that it's a way of meeting in our solitude, which seems especially striking and powerful for this moment. I want to read a poem by Wallace Stevens called The House Was Quiet and the World Was Calm. This is a poem that calms me down. It's about reading late at night. Sometimes the reader is hovering over the book. Sometimes he's one with the book. It's extremely rare to find a poem that's so unantagonized, spiritually speaking. And I love the way that everything kind of lines up in the poem. The reader, the book, the house, the night, the world. The house was quiet and the world was calm. The house was quiet and the world was calm. The reader became the book, and summer night was like the conscious being of the book. The house was quiet and the world was calm. The words were spoken as if there was no book, except that the reader leaned above the page, wanted to lean, wanted most to be the scholar to whom his book is true, to whom the summer night is like a perfection of thought. The house was quiet because it had to be. The quiet was part of the meaning, part of the mind, the access of perfection to the page. And the world was calm, the truth in a calm world, in which there is no other meaning. Itself is calm. Itself is summer and night. Itself is the reader leaning late and reading there.
How are you doing? I'm Dule Hill, and it is truly an honor to be here participating in the Academy of American Poets virtual poetry reading. Poetry peers into our soul, takes a little snapshot of our pulse, and recites it back to us. It is a unique gift, and for me, it is an honor to be here saying the words of Emma Lazarus in her poem, The New Colossus. Not like the brazen giant of Greek fame, with conquering limbs astride from land to land. Here at our sea-washed sunset gates shall stand a mighty woman with a torch whose flame is the imprisoned lightning, and her name, Mother of Exiles. From her beacon hand glows worldwide welcome. Her mild eyes command the air-bridge harbor that twin cities frame. Keep ancient lands, your storied pomp, cries she. With silent lips, give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free. The wretched refuse of your teeming shore, send these, the homeless tempest tossed to me. I lift my lamp beside the golden door.
The Changing Light, Lawrence Ferlinghetti. The changing light at San Francisco is none of your East Coast light, none of your pearly light of Paris. The light of San Francisco is a sea light, an island light. And the light of fog blanketing the hills, drifting in at night through the Golden Gate to lie on the city at dawn. And then the halcyon late mornings after the fog burns off, and the sun paints white houses with the sea light of Greece, with sharp, clean shadows, making the town look like it had just been painted. But the wind comes up at 4 o'clock, sweeping the hills, and then the veil of light of early evening, when the new night fog floats in, and in that veil of light, the city drifts, anchorless upon the ocean.
Hi, I'm Natasha Trethewey. We are certainly feeling the indifference of nature right now in the form of this virus that is taking so many of us around the world and from so many different walks of life. But we can take solace in our connection to each other, and one of the greatest ways we make those connections is through the language of poetry, the music of it, the intimacy of a single voice speaking to us across the distances. I'd like to read Liesl Mueller's When I Am Asked. When I am asked how I began writing poems, I talk about the indifference of nature. It was soon after my mother died, a brilliant June day, everything blooming. I sat on a gray stone bench in a lovingly planted garden, but the daylilies were as deaf as the ears of drunken sleepers, and the roses curved inward. Nothing was black or broken, and not a leaf fell, and the sun blared endless commercials for summer holidays. I sat on a gray stone bench ringed with the ingenue faces of pink and white impatience, and placed my grief in the mouth of language, the only thing that would grieve with me.
Hi, I'm Busy Phillips, and I've been a subscriber to Poets.org for several years now. I always look forward to the emails, and I find that a lot of times the poems match exactly what I'm trying to find the words or sentiment for in that particular moment. And especially in the last several years, where I feel like a lot of us have been sort of searching for the right words. Sometimes the poets are the ones that have them for us. I get to read this really beautiful poem by W.S. Merwin, which feels incredibly appropriate for this particular time. And I'll be honest, the first several times I read it through, I couldn't get through it without crying. It feels like he wrote it 2 days ago. But, all right. W.S. Merwin. Thanks. Listen, With the night falling, we are saying thank you. We are stopping on the bridges to bow from the railings. We are running out of the glass rooms with our mouths full of food to look at the sky and say thank you. We are standing by the water, thanking it, standing by the windows, looking out in our directions, back from a series of hospitals, back from a mugging, after funerals, we are saying thank you. After news of the dead, whether or not we knew them, we are saying thank you. Over telephones, we are saying thank you. In doorways and in the backs of cars and in elevators, remembering wars and the police at the door and the beatings on stairs, we are saying thank you. In the banks, we are saying thank you. In the faces of the officials and the rich and of all who will never change, we go on saying thank you. Thank you. With the animals dying around us, our lost feelings, we are saying thank you. With the forests falling faster than the minutes of our lives, we are saying thank you. With the words going out like cells of a brain, with the cities growing over us, we are saying thank you faster and faster. With nobody listening, we are saying thank you. We are saying thank you and waving, dark though it is. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Michael Jacobs, Chairman of the Academy of American Poets. I want to thank Elizabeth Alexander, Richard Blanco, and all of our wonderful poets and magnificent readers for donating their time and talent tonight to help us all shelter in poems. Normally, we'd be celebrating together with many of you in person at Alice Tully Hall at Lincoln Center for our annual fundraising gala, Poetry in the Creative Mind, in time for National Poetry Month, a tradition invented by the Academy of American Poets. Our Poetry in the Creative Mind celebration is the Academy's single biggest fundraising moment of the year, and so we thank you especially for the support you afford us tonight and throughout the year. If you're able, we're grateful for your donations on our website, Poets.org. Those dollars help us support and publish poets, make educational resources available to parents and teachers, and share poems with millions of readers each year and day by day through our widely popular Poem a Day email that reaches almost 250,000 people every morning, 365 days a year. If you haven't, you should subscribe. All of us on the Academy Board and at the Academy are grateful to you for coming together in poetry for a short, powerful spell this evening. By way of thanks, I'd like to close our reading this evening with a poem by the American poet Marvin Bell called Around Us. Around us. We need some pines to assuage the darkness when it blankets the mind. We need a silvery stream that banks as smoothly as a plane's wing, and a worn bed of needles to pad the rumble that fills the mind, and a blur or two of a wild thing that sees and is not seen. We need these things between appointments, after work, and if we keep them, then someone, someday, lying down after a walk and supper, with the fire hole wet down, the whole night sky set at a particular time, without numbers or hours, will cause a little sound of thanks, a zipper or a snap, to close round the moment and the thought of whatever good we did.